The way the sport has grown over the past even 5 years has been tremendous. Shout out to the team, the London and Ireland and Dublin teams. They do such good jobs to put the best. They make it a real experience. You can go to these games and have no clue about American football and still have a great time. And that's the feeling that you get at games in the States. And they've really brought that over to Dublin and London. So shout out to those guys.
But they haven't really looked convincing. And the defense has been their big strength for years. And really, it's kind of been a weakness this year if you look at it, especially considering it is the league's highest paid defense. It's not played to that standard so far this year at all. Now it did put in a much improved performance against New England on Sunday, forcing 5 turnovers and bringing Drake May down 5 times as well. But heading into Sunday, they were 30th in yards allowed, they're 29th in points allowed. And you look at the teams they've played in Seattle and the Jets, and you look at they're not the most high-powered offenses either. So going up against all the firepower that Minnesota has, they really can't afford to turn up like they did again in those first 2 games, can they?
Every time I've mentioned Torrey Horton, I've always said this year's Puka Nacua, which is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but wow, he looks sensational. The route running, speed, you saw him a 95-yard punt return. But Torrey Horton really is emerging. He's a player that could really take a lot of people by surprise this season. I can only see him getting better. He's beaten some good cornerbacks. I'm very excited about what Seattle has with Torrey Horton.
Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the 14-Yard NFL Podcast.
The NFL International Series continues this week with the league playing in Dublin for the first time on Sunday, kicking off around 4 straight weeks with an NFL game in Europe. I'm Sam Moores and this is a Full 10 Yards NFL podcast. And in today's episode, we'll be looking ahead to the first ever NFL regular season game to be played in Ireland, which is a battle between the 2-1 Pittsburgh Steelers and the 2-1 Minnesota Vikings at Croke Park on Sunday evening. We'll also be looking ahead to the Thursday Night Football, which is another game between 2-1 teams, the Cardinals and the Seahawks, before predicting the rest of the Week 4 slate against the spread. Joining me to do all that is a returning guest on the podcast. He's a US sports writer for both the Mirror and Express, and he also coaches the game over here, as well as defensive coordinator of the Scunthorpe Alvers. Welcome back to the podcast, Charlie Wilson. Can you believe it's Week 4 already?
I was thinking about that as I was on my morning walk this morning. I'm thinking, how many weeks are we through the season? How many weeks is there to go? It makes me sad. Like, I love football, Sam, as you do, as our listeners do. And it's like, you want it to stick around for so long. And it is going to be around for a long time to come, but it does fly by at the same time. It's been a great first 3 weeks and hopefully a good week to come this week.
Yeah, it's once the international games start, really, then you really feel like, oh wow, we're really into the season now. And again, for us in the UK and in Ireland as well, these next couple of weeks are going to be really fun for us over here, aren't they?
They are, yeah. Especially like you say, first game coming this weekend and then 3 on the trot. So an exciting time of the year, and looking forward to getting to a few of these games. And some exciting games to watch as well. It's always nice to have. For the American fans, it must be nice to wake up, have a game, and then have your 3 slates of games as well. Feels like football really dominates the Sunday, which we can never be sad about.
Yeah, pretty much 12 hours of football for the next 4 weeks, which is brilliant. To be completely honest with you. Right, before we start today's podcast, I just wanted to remind you all that we've got our new Daily Fantasy Stars segment to come to. I'll record that separately later on, which is brought to you by Fantasy Gameday, the UK's dedicated daily fantasy app. Later on in the podcast, I'll share some tips for Week 4 for your lineups this Sunday in the Sunday Stars competitions that they have on the app. And remember, if you are new to the app, you can get a free entry worth £7.50 when you sign up with the code FULL10. That's FULL10. You get a free £7.50 bet after you deposit and enter your first lineup on the app. Just remember to please gamble responsibly, only if you're 18 and over and in the UK, and Northern Ireland. Right, we'll begin the podcast by looking in depth at the first two standalone games of the weekend before predicting the rest of the slate and Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football later on. Up first is Thursday Night Football, which heads to Arizona this week for a huge matchup, which was looking like a tasty battle for the NFC West title. The 2-1 Cardinals host the 2-1 Seahawks, and what will be the second division game in just 5 days for Arizona. Both teams are 0-1 in the division currently, with Seattle losing to San Francisco in week 1 before the Cardinals also fell to defeat against the Niners on Sunday. So despite only being in week 4, because of how tight this division is going to be, this has the feeling of a huge game already in week 4, doesn't it?
It really does. It feels like sort of a litmus test for both teams, I think. It is. Both teams can really make a statement with a win going to 3-1. And one will emerge, especially from storylines, as people will say, a contender perhaps in the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, huge permutations because it is in the division and because of how close each team is. San Francisco currently lead, but I've just suffered a major injury. So each win for the teams chasing San Francisco right now is vital. And it is, I think it really is. We said it was in our first podcast together, Sam, I spoke about, and we agreed how tight this division will be. And this feels like a game that really could go either way.
Yeah, we'll start by talking about the Cardinals as they're the home team in this game. And with 3 minutes to go on Sunday, they would have probably been thinking, oh, we're going to go into this game 3-0. They had the lead, they had the ball after Calais Campbell drew a holding call in the end zone, which resulted in a safety. So they had a 2-point lead. They had the ball with a couple of minutes to go, but the offense couldn't get it done. They couldn't finish the game. The offense got only 15 yards after the free kick before punting after Zay Jones dropped a conversion on 3rd and 9. So they gave Matt Jones just under 2 minutes to drive down the field and set up a game-winning Eddie Pinheiro field goal. So that was a heartbreaking loss for the Cardinals, who have seen their games come down to the wire really in every single game so far this season. You know, it's crazy because they could be 3-0. They could easily be 0-3 because the other two games came right down to the wire. They very nearly let leads slip in their first 2 games, and then they had the lead and lost it last week as well. So this team is very, very strange. They're averaging they're averaging just 3 points in the fourth quarter. 3 points in the fourth quarter. Three games, which is the worst in the league. And last time you were on the podcast, we were talking about how much Kyler Murray sort of needs to show that he can elevate this year. Well, obviously they have 2 wins. They're above 500, but those wins are very much defense led. And now we're in a state where if they would have just driven the field and got 2 more first downs, they'd be 3-0 coming into this game. That has to be a concern, surely, right?
I think there has to be. I think with the Cardinals, it's just what we're seeing is just more of the same. It's so inconsistent. It's over-reliance on Trey McBride. It's inconsistencies from not just Kyler Murray, but what might be an even bigger concern in Marvin Harrison Jr., just not on the same page whatsoever. Everything looks scrambled in Kyler Murray's legs and in the play calling. They'll have a first quarter a really nice play call from Drew Petzing, and then in the third and fourth quarter, it'll just go awash. And if you follow any Cardinals on the social media, they let you hear it. Drew Petzing is a man who has to be under pressure. And this was the guy who people thought someone would be a head coach a year or 2 ago, and he is a few games away from potentially losing his job, which is crazy because they're 2-1, and it's the Arizona Cardinals, who have quite a low ceiling in some people's minds. I think, but to answer your question, yeah, they have to be. If they lose this game, then I think worries will really, really start to crop up. And they are justified because, again, like we said, it's just more of the same inconsistencies and all over the place play.
Yeah, and losing James Conner on Sunday as well for the season, huge for them as well. He's set to have end-of-season foot surgery as well. So the majority of the carries will now fall Trey Benson's way, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. He had been the better of the 2 backs this season anyway. Connor's not been the same guy before his injury. But I think where they will miss him is where he was being used quite a lot, which was in the red zone and on third down as a pass catching back as well. And Benson's not really done that. That's been Connor's role. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And but the good news for Arizona is their defense has improved just as they hoped with all the money they spent in free agency, and it has come up in big moments in the last couple of weeks. The secondary is still weak, and we'll see what happens with with Will Johnson, the corner, a second-round pick. He's probably been their best defensive back this season, but he didn't play last week, and he's got a groin injury by the sounds of things, so it doesn't sound like he might not play this week. So we'll see what happens there. But you have to say that it has been a triumph in the first 3 weeks of the season compared to what we saw last year on defense for Arizona. Because that's got to give them a lot of confidence, because they're going against a run. So if they can disrupt the timing of Sam Darnold's passing and get pressure towards him, they might be on to win it, because they have this pass rush now, don't they?
They do, yeah. Josh Sweat, namely, is a real force off the edge, and Calais Campbell still doing it, age 56 or however old he is, still an absolute force on the defensive line. They can create pressure, and I do think they can shut down Seattle's run. Seattle, for their offense, which has been really good, have not run the ball as well as they would have hoped to, and that's mostly due to the interior offensive line still being a little bit of an issue. Anthony Bradford mainly being the issue there, if not all of him. So if they can get Seattle into 3rd and long in situations where Sam Darnold needs to drop back, and then Josh Sweat, Calais Campbell, other guys can pin their ears back and really go for it, then yeah, they could have Seattle in a lot of trouble this Thursday. So
we're going to Seattle now, because when I spoke to you before the season, you were more optimistic than most. You were really, really high on this Seahawks team when many weren't. Well, you certainly look to be right from what we've seen so far, 3 weeks of the season, because it has been such success for Seattle, you could say, because a lot of metrics, they're looking really good right now. Sam Darnold is carried on the form that he showed in Minnesota last year. The offensive line has performed better than it has in previous, and people were worried about the unit, but it's really not been that much of an issue in pass protection anyway. And the explosive plays in the pass game, despite losing receivers, despite changing offensive coordinators, they are still there as well. And the run game, again, you say it's one of those where it's not going as well as they would have liked to, but it still is going a lot better than many other run games across the league. And Clint Kubiak's done a great job so far, hasn't he?
He really, really has, Sam. Sam Darnold has been really good, genuinely.
Really good.
But I think Clint Kubiak has made him look even better, and it's been a very, very, very long time since the Seattle coaching staff has made a quarterback look better. It used to be Russell Wilson when he was in his prime and we're not being getting benched by the Giants. When he was in Seattle, he would make the offensive coordinator look better. Sam Darnold is in an ideal situation right now. Offensive line is letting him down a little bit, but we see him avoiding pressure with his legs, feeling confident in the pocket. And these quick hitters, which Seattle are winning with, these rollout plays, Darnold and JSN on a few plays this season, Sam, the play's broken down and JSN just gets open and Darnold knows where to go with the ball. I'm sure I'll talk about a guy in a second in a 5th round rookie who's really, really, I thought he would impress, but I didn't think it would be this quickly. He may emerge as a wide receiver 2 above Cooper Kupp. Is it the tight ends that not really got into the game yet, but they're showing promise. It's been really impressive from Seattle. Like I say, they would like to sort out the wide zone still. That's still a work in progress, but Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet have both had big games, so it feels like they're trajecting in the right way. They're trending positively.
Yeah, we're going to that guy now. Obviously, when you came on the podcast before the season, you said that Torrey Horton was a name to watch. You were one of the people that sort of said that before the season. And, he had a Sunday for the ages. The 95-yard punt return touchdown was the Seahawks' first punt return touchdown in 10 years. And it was also the longest in franchise history as well. And he also caught a pass in the end zone as well. There are tons of positives to take from that spanking of New Orleans on Sunday, but he was certainly a shining light, wasn't he?
He really was, yeah. In every time I've mentioned Torrey Horton, I've always said this year's Puka Nacua, which is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but wow, like he looks sensational. The route running, the speed, you saw him a 95-yard punt return. By the way, that blocking was excellent from Seattle and terrible coverage from New Orleans. He was helped out hugely there. But Torrey Horton really is emerging. He's a player that could really, really take a lot of people by surprise this season. I can only see him getting better. He's beaten some good cornerbacks. I'm very excited about what Seattle has in Torrey Horton.
Our next offense, I think, to me, it is quite similar to what we saw in the first couple of weeks in New Orleans when Kubiak was there last year, before all the injuries happened and everything went to pot, really. But what we saw in those first 3 weeks of the season, where they went 2-0, they played the Eagles really close, obviously went on to go win the Super Bowl. Those 3 weeks, they were spot on, and then all the injuries happened for New Orleans. I think in this team more than most, and we said this in the preview as well, this team more than most has to stay healthy. But if this team can stay healthy, this Seahawks team could really contend, far in the NFC, couldn't it?
Yeah, I do. As much as Torrey Horton has been impressive and Cooper Kupp has been okay, he's been fine. He's done the job I thought he would do, really. A third down, reliable catcher. But they are heavily dependent on Jackson Smith and Jigba. So they do need to get this run game going and make it a lot easier for Sam Darnold. Open up this play action pass game and then hit Torrey Horton, hit JSN. Well, the offense is exciting because you can see it's ascending. You can see the new system in the wide zone blocking is improving week per week. Gray Zabel, we spoke about him on the pod last, and he's looked great. He's looked really, really good as a rookie playing left guard, a really hard position to play. An undrafted rookie playing center who's also impressed. All of our offensive line are young guys. Charles Cross really taking a step this year. Looks like one of the best tackles in the game. Abraham Lucas finally back from injury, which is huge for Seattle. Really young core ascending. It's exciting to see. The way they've built the offense is perfect. And now it's just, okay, let's see what we can do this season. No one really expected much. Like we said, 7.5 wins, I think it was. And they look like they're going to shatter that. So it's exciting times up in the Pacific Northwest.
How do they win this game?
They have to run the ball. They have to run the ball more effectively. I know it's boring coach talk, but it really is true. They need to put Kenneth Walker in a better situation to make plays. If they run the ball consistently, I don't see how Arizona can win. I think Seattle's offense and their defense is a lot better. I think Seattle's defensive unit can really, really hamper what Arizona wants to do. But if they don't run the ball and they get, stay in third and long and Sam Darnold makes a few bad decisions, and that's how they lose the game. How they win the game is just not making mistakes, really, not turning the ball over, no Tariq Woolen blown coverages. Like, there's a guy who could, or a penalty. Yeah. Sam, there's a guy who could be one of the best cornerbacks in the league. He has speed, the size, the playmaking ability, but wow, he falls asleep, and he falls asleep bad. If you watch some of the catches that he gave up to Jake Tonjes, who I'm a nerd, Sam. We're both NFL nerds. Have you ever heard of Jake Tonjes before Sunday?
No, not coming into
yeah.
This year, no.
Looks like Rob Gronkowski when we played against Seattle. So it's just, if Reek Woolen can play at his best. They also have 2 injuries in Devon Witherspoon and Julian Love, who they do need back for this game. But if they play at if they play 80%, Seattle should win this game, even though it's on the road. I do think Seattle is a better team.
And for Arizona, would you say that if their path to victory is stopping the Seahawks rushing game, then?
It is, yeah. It has to be. And it's also getting number 18 to play at the level he's capable of, Marvin Harrison Jr. He is all over the place right now. I mean, did you see the third down drop where he's wide open? The golden rule for a wide receiver is do not jump if you do not need to jump. Just stand there, catch the ball. He jumps for no reason. It's like he's in his own head at the minute, the way he's dropping the ball. It's awful. They can't win games this year consistently and have Marvin Harrison play like that. They need him to play at a much higher level. They're very reliant on Trey McBride, and they've been very reliant on James Conner. It'll be a big task for Trey Benson. He's capable, but we just haven't seen it yet. I do think if Arizona can, if likes of Calais Campbell, Dalvin Tomlinson can really stop Seattle's run, like I say, get them into bad situations, then they can absolutely beat Seattle. I do think it's a harder game for Arizona than it is Seattle. But yeah, they have the capability of winning this game.
Okay, we got on to predicting the game. Now, Arizona are narrow home favourites, just 1.5 points. So this essentially is a pick 'em when you're predicting against the spread. So I'll let you go first. I assume you're going with Seattle, right?
So I am only if
Yeah.
Devon Witherspoon and Julian Love play. If they both are out, I'm going to take Arizona because I think Seattle will have a huge weakness in the secondary, And I think Arizona do have a playmakers to make them pay. If Witherspoon and Love play, I will go for Seattle. So I guess I'll go for Seattle.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Seattle as well. I think coaching really matters on a Thursday night game, especially, and there's no doubt in my mind that this is the best coached team of the two. So I'm going to go for Seattle as well. And I think it's also concerned the way that Arizona have struggled late in games this year. Obviously, they almost blew a game to the Saints and the Panthers, which they had won both. Both those games won. So that is a concern. And the record against the Seahawks as well is woeful. They've lost the last 7 games against Seattle as well. So I'm going to go.
Wow, I didn't realize that, but
Yeah.
that feels right because it feels like a long time. There's a lot of weird games between Seattle and Arizona in the past.
Yeah, it's 7 straight they've won. So I'm gonna say they're gonna make it 8. Right, we'll get on to the Dublin game now. First ever game to be played in Ireland for a regular season game anyway. Ireland becomes the 5th country to host a regular season game and the 3rd in Europe. That number will soon become 6 when the Dolphins and the Commanders play in Madrid in November before the league heads to Australia for the first time in week 1 next year as well. So we'll be on 7 countries at the start of next year, which is crazy. For us in the UK, this game is free to air on Channel 5. It's also been shown on both Sky Sports and DAZN as well. And then if anyone's listening and making the trip, there's lots going on this week in Dublin. There's so much going on, which is awesome. There's a big NFL experience at Dublin Castle with lots of activities and chance to win prizes. There's also a big pop-up shop right in the heart of the city as well. There's an exhibition at City Hall with all 59 Super Bowl rings on show alongside the Vince Lombardi Trophy. So go check that out as well. The guys at Pro Football Ireland are hosting an event on a Friday night as well. They got Greg Rosenthal and Neil Reynolds as guests there. The tickets for that are still available. And finally, there's a live panel event on a Saturday afternoon, which is hosted by Colleen Wolfe and has several guests speaking, including Roger Goodell, Steelers owner Art Rooney, and Steelers legend Jerome Bettis as well. This is yet more evidence that another big step is being taken in the global expansion of the game, Charlie, isn't it?
It is. It's fantastic to see. I was in Dublin for the college football game a few weeks ago, and it was fantastic. It was really great. The way the sport has grown over the past even 5 years has been tremendous. Shout out to the team, the London and Ireland and Dublin teams. They do such good jobs to put the best. They make it a real experience. You can go to these games and have no clue about American football and still have a great time. And that's the feeling that you get at games in the States. And they've really brought that over to Dublin and London. So shout out to those guys. They're great to us in the press as well. They're great to the fans. They put on a good show.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go on to the game itself now. I think it'll be a good one. We've got 2 teams sitting at 2-1, but also 2 teams that we're not quite sure what they are at the moment, to be honest with you. So for a neutral, this should be a fascinating watch, just because you're interested to see, if these teams can take a step and get to 3-1 on the year. I think the big news heading into this game came from Kevin O'Connell's press conference post-game last week after the Vikings' huge win over the Bengals on Sunday, where he announced that Carson Wentz would be starting at the 2nd straight week at quarterback. He will start in place of last year's 10th overall pick, JJ McCarthy, who is still sidelined with a sprained right ankle. Now, he is out of the walking boot that he was wearing last week, and he will travel with the team to Dublin after the practice on Thursday. They're flying out after the practice on Thursday, so he may suit up against the Browns in London next week. But for this week, it is Carson Wentz. And do you think there's actually much difference between the 2 quarterbacks of where they are at right now for the Vikings?
I know. I think it's very close. I think it's really close, which is a worrying statement to say about JJ McCarthy. I do think I could have told you that a year ago when we drafted him. I didn't like that pick at all. He has the talent, sure. He doesn't have the arm strength. He doesn't have the touch. Every throw is the same touch. I don't know with JJ McCarthy. What we've seen so far is very, very worrying. I mean, you see the quarterbacks they've let go, 3, at least 2 really good starters. It looks like in Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones. It's like, that looks like a tough decision. And we heard news today that Minnesota were pretty close in signing Aaron Rodgers this offseason, and potentially in for a mentor above JJ McCarthy, which might not have been a bad idea. But yeah, Carson Wentz, I mean, he got the win, right? He very limited in what he did. You know, it was basically just pitch and catch, get the ball and pass it straight away. But it worked. Let's see if it can work against a Steelers defense, which has looked weakened, Sam.
Yeah, I obviously we've seen very little of McCarthy since he was drafted last year. Obviously, he missed the entirety of last season, and then he's struggled in probably 6 of the 8 quarters we've seen. Now, after he threw the pick 6 in the third quarter of the Bears game, he then completely changed and became a guy who just completely took over the game. But then in the game against the Falcons the week afterwards, he was terrible. So we really haven't seen much of him at all to give you confidence that he's going to win. But with that staff, they've made Josh Dobbs look good. They've made several quarterbacks. Gave Kirk Cousins his best years. So he's in the right place to learn. It's just whether he has enough to, so we'll see what happens over the year. But I certainly don't think Wentz gives him less chance of winning on Sunday than McCarthy does. I think it'd probably be about the same. And obviously besides that second half in Chicago, McCarthy has turned the ball over 5 times already this year. So I really don't think it changes much. If anything, Wentz probably gives them a slightly better chance of winning. But again, he has turned the ball over a lot in the past as well. Only Jake Browning has a worse EPA per play among the 36 quarterbacks with at least 25 snaps than JJ McCarthy. So yeah, there's certainly that, and then he also has the worst pressure to snap percentage as well. So he's not been able to feel the pressure a lot. So yeah, again, they probably do have more chance of winning with Wentz at quarterback this week. He looked all right against Cincinnati, but again, he did have the help of a tremendous defense on Sunday as well. Obviously, they put on a clinic. Like Brian Flores did what he did best, which is confusing quarterbacks, and he confused the hell out of Jake Browning. He forced him to throw 2 interceptions, whilst the unit also recovered 3 fumbles, and 2 of those turnovers were returned for touchdowns by cornerback Isaiah Rodgers. Whilst he also forced a fumble, becoming the first player in Vikings history of 2 defensive touchdowns in a game. And I think it's only about 8 players that have done that in NFL history as well. So or maybe it's 11. So not very, very few players that have done that as well. So he's certainly had a great game, and that's what this defense is known for. Because we're in for a great battle between Brian Flores' scheme, where he's got his zero blitz, but he also disguised that and dropped back 4 guys, and it is it's very creative in that way. And it does confuse young quarterbacks, but then Aaron Rodgers, he's seen everything. So he's had 18 seasons as a starting quarterback in the league. He's seen everything, and this is actually a rematch of what we saw in the London game last year, the first London game last year. But Flores got the better of Rodgers. He forced him to 3 interceptions in that game, and that was a game that got Robert Saleh fired in New York. So I'm fascinated to see what happens in the rematch there. Just a word on this Vikings defense, Charlie. Is 2 years. Even with Flores in Miami as well. He's a very creative play caller on the defensive side of the ball, isn't he?
He really is. I was at that game, the Vikings Jets game, last year, and the calls that Flores was making was wild. There was one play it was actually on the pick 6, which he threw to Andrew Van Ginkel, where Van Ginkel was, in a mugshot on the line, and then a zone blitz from the other side. Van Ginkel drops back. Rodgers never sees him, drops back, pick 6. It was a really, really well-designed play. And Flores does that each and every week. He changes things around. He has these, simulated pressures, these mugshots, these cover 0, really risky plays. But they have the playmakers to make it work. And Aaron Rodgers really struggled with that last time they played. And this is, like you say, Sam, a quarterback who has seen it all. He should know these things. But, when you have pressure, when you have elite athletes running at you at very high pace, an offensive line that you don't really trust, and you make these mistakes and you don't think clearly. The Steelers will need their offensive line to hold up against this Vikings pass rush. It will be very tough. They'll make it really, really tough. I love the Vikings defense. I think they lost Cameron Bynum, which was a big loss. But yeah, they have playmakers all over the field. They're a joy to watch, and no real superstars either, which is impressive. Kind of like the team we just spoke about in Seattle, where it's the scheme rather than the players, and that makes it a joy to watch. It makes it a lot more fun, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, flipping this to Pittsburgh now, this is their sort of first big test on offense since this season and since they've had Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. And it's an offense that's been iffy so far. It's not been bad. I don't think there have been worse offenses in the NFL than this Steelers offense. But there's been nothing spectacular, as we sort of kind of expected. What have you thought of what you've seen from Pittsburgh offensively this year?
Yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers has made some fantastic plays. Some of the throws he made against Seattle were like, wow. Like, there was one play on a rollout where he launched about 60 yards downfield over the top, and it was a great play. I think it was called back for a flag. But he's made some really nice throws. The thing is with Rodgers' offense is just they're so dated. Like the slants and fade routes to DK Metcalf, and fair play, they've worked so far, but it's not a sustainable offense you can run. They've not got DK has scored 2 touchdowns, but he has about 90 yards on the season.
He's been really struggling with screens as well. Especially that Jets game as well. It got about 5 or 6 screens in that game.
Yeah, it's like when you first get on the sticks on a new Madden game and you just run a really simple offense. It's just those plays spammed. They really need to open it up because Flores is going to take that apart, right? He really will. It's strange because Pittsburgh, they have a good offensive line on paper, but just not playing well together so far. They need more from the likes of Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, who's JJ McCarthy's former Michigan receiver. They need a lot more from him. Jalen Warren has looked pretty good as a running back. Kenneth Gainwell's run hard. But they just look really limited in what they do. They're heavily reliant on DK Metcalf, and I love DK. He's a dropper. He's a serial dropper, and he drops way too many passes, and that's going to put Pittsburgh in a bad situation unless they can figure out something more sustainable and just spam in the ball to number 4.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because they coming into this year, they're pretty happy starting 2-1, but they haven't really looked convincing. And the defense has been their big strength for years, and really, it's kind of been a weakness this year if you look at it, especially considering it is the league's highest paid defense. It's not played to that standard so far this year at all. Now it did put in a much improved performance against New England on Sunday, forcing 5 turnovers and bringing Drake May down 5 times as well. But heading into Sunday, they're 30th in yards allowed, they're 29th in points allowed. And you look at the teams they've played in Seattle and the Jets, and you look at they're not the most high-powered offenses either. So going up against all the firepower that Minnesota has, they really can't afford to turn up like they did again in those first 2 games, can they?
No, they need much better production from their front 7 as well. Jalen Ramsey is playing so well, but the rest of the defense is really under par. There was one play against Seattle where the fullback pancaked both linebackers. My linebackers just sort of ran into the full. It was a really nice play, but the linebackers just ran into the fullback. Like it was really, really basic fundamentals, not scraping over the top. Attack the right shoulder, really poor. But Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen, who are their linebackers, are good players, but they're very much YouTube players, like TikTok, like splash players. They play well in clips, but for most of the game, it's like, oh, that's not good enough. The defensive line is Cam Hayward's starting to come back down to his age now. He's starting to look like a lesser version of himself. They need more from Keanu Benson. They need more from the rookie who's out right now. I've forgotten his name, the kid from Oregon.
Derek Harmon.
Derek Harmon, yeah. They'll need him to come back and play at a higher level. They're very reliant on play. They're reliant on Jalen Ramsey, TJ Watt. Highsmith's had an injury. They're not working well as a unit right now, and they need to do that if Pittsburgh has any chance in the schedule and the division that they're in.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. We saw there's a great sort of graphic as a next gen stats run direction graphics, and what Seattle did is they basically just ran away from TJ Watt on every single rush. It was towards the left hand side. It's like obviously no one wants to go towards TJ Watt, but that obviously shows that there is weakness in that front 7 if they can just go on the left every single time and it can't be stopped.
Exactly, yeah. And, it was pretty easy for them to Seattle to do that. It's like, okay, there's a weakness there. Let's just exploit that. And Pittsburgh really needs to do a better job of shoring that up. And that's mostly the linebackers as well, right? The linebackers need to help out the defensive line. And we're not doing that so far. They need to play better or they'll miss the playoffs. They'll have a losing record for the first time in Mike Tomlin's era.
Yeah. Yeah, the good thing for Pittsburgh is the fact that Campbell Hayward had an amazing game on Sunday against the Patriots. TJ Watt had an amazing game on Sunday against the Patriots as well. So those guys did step up. But when you're relying on those guys to step up every single week, then that is a little bit of a concern, as we're saying. So obviously the defense still is there. We saw that on Sunday, but we've only seen it 1 out of 3 weeks so far. So that is the big thing for Pittsburgh coming into this game. Okay, let's go predict it now. Minnesota are favored by 1.5 points. Again, it's just a pick 'em. There's no home advantage. Even though the Steelers are a very big fan base and have a big history in Ireland, there probably will be more Steelers fans than Vikings fans there. But yes, and they are the home team in this game, but it's not the traditional home field advantage. So again, it's just a pick 'em at 1.5 points. Minnesota favored. How do you see this one playing out?
It's hard to pick Minnesota when Carson Wentz is starting at quarterback. But I'm going to do it because I need to see more from Pittsburgh. So I have any confidence that they can beat a good team. And I think Minnesota are a good team. I think they will win in spite of Carson Wentz. I'll take Minnesota for this one.
Right, I'm going to go for the opposite. I'm going to go for Pittsburgh. I just feel like that they need to start getting a groove on defense. And they're bit part players have played decent on offense, but I just feel like they're missed. They need another guy. So I feel like I'm going to pick them just because they've got a better quarterback at the end of the day. And then Rodgers, as you said there, he has his moments where he still looks like Aaron Rodgers. He had a couple towards the end of the season with the Jets last year. Did a couple in this season so far. And again, I think in this game he will just get over the top. But I'm not confident about this whatsoever. I'm really not. I think this will be a close game. I think the bookies have got it right at 1.5 points because it will be very, very close. You're listening to the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast, and we're really excited to announce that we'll be teaming up with Fantasy Gameday for the podcast this season, which is the very first NFL daily fantasy app made exclusively for us Brits and created by UK fans. To celebrate the partnership, they've given us a special offer to share with you, our audience, where if you sign up with a promo code FULL10, that's FULL10, you'll get a free game credit added to your account when you enter your first lineup. Every week there are dozens of competitions to get involved in, with entry fees starting from just £3, and there are big prizes to be won. If you're like me, you love playing fantasy football and love having someone to root for in Red Zone when your team aren't playing on a Sunday, this app is perfect for you. That's Fantasy Gameday, the only daily fantasy app built for UK NFL fans. And just a quick reminder, please gamble responsibly and only if you're 18 and over and based in the UK and Northern Ireland. Let's get on with picking the rest of the games this week. Then we've got quite a spread out slate this week, which is quite good compared to last week. We had about 10 games in the early window, only the 7 this week, which is nice. It means that Red Zone is interesting throughout the day on Sunday. And we'll start in Atlanta, where the Falcons welcome the Commanders. The Commanders are 3.5 point favourites going into Atlanta. So they're road favourites. This game is on Sky Sports Football, by the way, and it's obviously available to stream on DAZN, as all are, except for the main game on Sky. This one's an interesting one because we don't know who's going to be starting at quarterback. It sounds like it could be Jaden Daniels, but it depends on if he practices this week or not. But with Marcus Mariota there, I don't think that stops. Obviously, he's not as good as Jaden Daniels, but every game he's played the last couple of years, he's played well in that offense. So that's certainly a good sign for Washington. Which way are you going here? Washington favored by 3.5.
Yeah, I'm going to take Washington just because of that abysmal performance, that poor, putrid performance that Atlanta put in against the Panthers last week. Michael Penix Jr., I don't know, starting to have a bit of concerns there, Sam. He mistakes. I know he's young, but wow, that's just not going to cut it, what we saw from him last week. 2
back-to-back bad games as well, because the Minnesota game was bad as well.
It was. So I'm going to take the Commanders, even if Max Mariota plays. Mariota is a perfect backup. He can come in and win a few games, but there will be a time where it's like, yeah, he can't start because he's not at that level. Washington has to hope that if he is playing, I would think that he is from the reports so far. They would have to hope he doesn't crash down to earth this week and just does enough to get them the win. I do think he played well against Las Vegas, but their defense really made him look a lot better. Pete Carroll's defense.
2 straight revenge games for him as well. So obviously he played for the Raiders and the Falcons. It's 2 straight revenge games for him, which is quite an interesting thing as well.
And because you've just brought that up, I will definitely go for Washington. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm going to go for Atlanta here just because it's a big spread to be home underdogs in 3.5 points. Obviously, do I think they're going to lose by 4 at home? Probably not. I think it'll be close. I think it will be close. Nothing in that. So I'm gonna take Atlanta, and even if they do lose, I hope it'll be by a field goal. So I still win there. But yeah, I think this would be a good game because again with Washington, their defenses look pretty good for 3 weeks, which is really good. And Atlanta, they've got their defenses look really good. They've finally got a pass rush for once, which is something we've been saying for Atlanta. Pretty much since 2016, we've been saying, can the Falcons get a pass rush? Well, they finally should have one this year, which I think makes them very interesting. So I'm going to go for Atlanta, and I'm going to go for a bounce back game for that offense, which was terrible last week. Okay, on to the biggest spread of the week, but by far the biggest spread of the week. The Buffalo Bills welcome the New Orleans Saints. This is a college spread. The Bills are favored by 16.5 points. So that is 16.5 points. Humongous spread. But
is that the biggest spread in it must be the biggest spread in 5 years. That
the biggest one this season. I think the biggest one last week was the Bills again at 12.5 points against Miami. Which didn't come in. So it was closer than 12.5 points there. So that's an interesting thing. But obviously the Bills have been probably the best team for 3 weeks so far, and the Saints have been decent, but they are winless. Spencer Rattler's looked good, but he's going to Buffalo, where they're probably going to be unbeatable in their final year in that stadium. I think they've won something like 14 straight home games. This is going to be a tough ask for New Orleans, isn't it?
It is. It is. Their biggest issue I've only watched them in the one game, the full game way through, was their loss to Seattle last week. And the biggest issue wasn't the offense. It wasn't the defense. It was special teams. Wow, that was the worst special teams performance I have ever seen in my life. If you've got a minute later on, viewers, please go watch Blake Grupe's tackle attempt on Derek Young. It is hilarious. I would have cut him on the spot for that tackle alone, never mind missing the field goals that he did. New Orleans, my colleagues at the Mirror US will be laughing right now. I'm a huge Spencer Rattler fan. I had him as a first-round pick. I had him above Bo Nix. I had him above JJ McCarthy. And I feel okay about that take. I think he's really good. I think he's been let down massively. I will say maybe not a first-round pick, but he makes some fantastic plays, and he's been really let down by what's around him. The offense is just not a good group of players, but he can make plays. He nearly beat the Niners and the Cardinals, and that was mostly just Spencer Rattler being really good. The defense is okay, not terrible. They're just, again, devoid of star players. They can hang in there with anyone. They really can. It was the special teams will let them down against Seattle, but that was a thumping. But yeah, I can see them hanging in there with Buffalo for much of it.
Do you think Buffalo will win by 17? That's the question.
I do not know. I'm taking the Saints.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to join you. I think Buffalo will win. I think we'll win by probably a score, probably maybe 10 points probably. But yeah, I think the Saints have looked pretty decent for 3 weeks. Yeah, and again, they could arguably have 2 wins potentially. Yeah. So yeah, I'm impressed by how that offense has looked, and yeah, we'll see what happens. What happens there? But yeah, I'm going to go for New Orleans within 16 and points as well. Okay, we'll go over to Detroit now. The Lions host the Browns. This game is available on Channel 5. So it's free to air telly on the UK. The Lions are favored by 8.5 points over the Browns after their their big Monday Night Football win. And obviously the Browns beating the Lions division rivals, the Packers, as well, right at the end of the game on Sunday as well. These two teams are going to be feeling great right now. Detroit favored by 8.5 points. Which way are you going here?
Yeah, I'm taking the Lions here. Green Bay's offensive line was the reason they lost that game. They should have beat Cleveland. Detroit have a good offensive line, but they're much better offense right now. The defense is really, really ascending. Detroit have impressed me a lot. I'll take Detroit here.
Yeah, they're week 1 against the Packers, they looked abysmal in the trenches. The last 2 weeks, they've looked really, really good. Yeah, obviously they're put a rocket up their arse almost. Dan Cameron must have done, because obviously that is his identity. He wants to control that line of scrimmage, and and we saw with his aggressiveness that 4th down play call won them the game against the Lions, because you probably are expecting Lamar Jackson to lead a scoring drive of how good he's been playing this season. The shame is that his defense has been completely terrible so far this season. But no, I'm going to go for the Lions too. I think the Browns can keep pretty much any game frisky because of their defense. The Packers, they pretty much doubled and tripled teamed Myles Garrett the whole time, but then left everyone else open on their on the defensive line as well. Like, obviously, so that was a bit of a poor tactic from the Packers there. But he is a threat to be held with, and I think they're going to be close. Cleveland every single week. I just don't think they've got the star power, the firepower that Detroit has to score in seconds, as we saw on Monday night. And I'm going to go for Detroit here as well. Minus 8.5, so by more than 9 points. Okay, all AFC South game now. The 0-3 Houston Texans against the 0-3 Tennessee Titans. The Texans are favored by 7.5 points despite being 0-3. But I think that pretty much shows how bad the Titans have been through 3 weeks. Now, the Texans really, really need a win here, don't they?
They do. Man, it's sad to see what they've done to their offense. Like, it looks so promising. Like, Bobby Slowick calling the plays, CJ Stroud looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the game. Now, Slowick's been fired and their offense looks vanilla. They traded away the generational left tackle and they just look a mess. They're super reliant on Nico Collins with Tank Dell being out for the year from that awful injury last year. It's just a shame to see where the Texans have landed now, and TJ Stroud looks a shell of his former self. I'm going to take Houston here because the Titans are a mess. I think the head coach could be the first man fired this season. Titans fans are really,
hasn't he? So that's a sign.
Yeah, exactly. That's always a sign. Yeah, Cam Ward shows promise, but that pick 6 that he threw was abysmal, and I think there's going to be more of those to come. Because he's a rookie, he's learning his trade in the NFL in a much different offense than he was in at Miami. So I'm going to take Houston here, but I feel awful about it, Sam, because this one could go either way.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Houston as well, purely because their defense, I think, will scare the hell out of Cam Ward, because they've got the pass rush. That Titans offensive line is the worst in the league. If you just look at most numbers, that Titans offensive line has been horrendous this year, which is a crazy second year in a row when they've got the best offensive line coach in the league in Bill Callahan, Brian Callahan, the head coach's dad. He did so well in Cleveland in their 2 playoff trips, getting that line working, but just hasn't been the case in Tennessee. And this Texans defense, it's been really good 3 weeks, especially with how much has been on the field, because this Texans offense can't extend drives. So I think they've played really well. Again, I think it is a very talented defense. They have released CJ Gardner-Johnson in the last couple of days, which I think is interesting. But that is an interesting thing. But the defense is playing well when he wasn't on the field anyway. So I'm gonna go for Houston. I just feel like this is a kind of get right game for them to make them feel confident. But again, there are some major issues on the offense that we spoke about it last week that I think we all are very, very concerned by, but I think they will get this done this week. Okay, New England now, they're favored by 5.5 points at home to the Carolina Panthers. New England probably feel that they could be 3-0 right now. They've played three. They played well on offense in 3 games. Problem is they've been horrendously ill-disciplined. They're getting so many penalties, and which is not what you expect from a Mike Vrabel team, and it has cost them. And obviously against Pittsburgh on Sunday, they had 5 turnovers as well. But the promise is there with New England. So you can see why they are 5.5-point favourites, even though they are 1-2. They play the Panthers, who again are also 1-2, getting their first win last week, shutting out the Falcons after the Falcons were heavily favoured in that game. That was a big shock and a really nice game for the Panthers defense, which looked like it was carrying on from the form where it was the worst defense in NFL history last year. Through 2 weeks, it looked terrible. Last week, played really, really well. So that's good. The Patriots are favored by 5.5 points in this game. This should be an interesting one. 2 1-2 teams. One of them is going to be at 500 at the end of this game. Which way do you think this game's going to go?
Yeah, it's a really, really hard one to pick. I'm going to go with New England, and on the premise that Drake May doesn't make some ridiculous decisions that basically cause New England the game. I think New England really need to see a jump from Drake May, who has moments where it's like, okay, we have our franchise quarterback. This guy is it. And then just makes a crippling decision to turn the ball over. He really needs to iron that out of his game, because some of them are just like, the plays like, what are you doing? Like, what have you seen there? They need to get more from their rookie running back, Travion Henderson.
He'll probably play a lot this week because Ramondre Stevenson fumbled twice.
Yes, and I heard that he's maybe being cut, so that could come out. That could be the case. I'm going to go New England here. I think they have underrated playmakers. The LSU kid, Keyshawn Butte, like, he looks like a player. He's really, really emerging. Hunter Henry is starting to look like a really, really solid tight end, one to pick up for you fantasy guys. So I'm going to go New England here because I don't trust Bryce Young.
See, yeah, I'm going to go Carolina to make it close. I'm going to go Carolina here. I don't know if they'll win, but within 5.5 points, or within 5 points, I think they'll certainly make it close. Or they'll come in the fourth quarter like Bryce Young always does and makes the game competitive. But I don't know where. Bryce Young in second half, brilliant. Bryce Young in the first half, not been great for the first 3 years. He's very much, he's a very clutch player, but then he gets himself in some horrendous situations that make it very hard to get out of. So that is an interesting one to go for there. I'm going to go for Carolina to kind of. I think New England probably will just win this game, but I think it's a coin flip. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go Carolina, and we'll see what we get from Panthers defense this week. Because if they play like they did last week, then this could be a really interesting one. Okay, 2 road favourites to finish off the early slate. The Chargers head to New York. They're playing the Giants. The Chargers are 6.5 point favourites going into New York. Obviously, this is Jackson Dart's first start. Well, I feel sorry for Jackson Dart going up against this defense because this Chargers defense is balling right now. 6.5 points. Which way are you going?
Can I just say quickly, what a mess! What a mess the New York Giants are. What did they think they was going to get from Russell Wilson? Like, this is what Russell Wilson is. He's a player who can win you games by throwing the ball downfield, but he can't. He's not going to win you the game the way they deploy him. And after the game against Dallas, where it was like, okay, just launch deep balls, they sort of like went into that game with Kansas being like, yeah, just let Russell Wilson stand in the pocket and throw the ball 30 times downfield, and let's hope that they catch up. It's like, what kind of play calling is that? And what was the goal here? Why start Russell Wilson and having played really well one game, have 2 bad games, agreed, but then move on to Jackson Dart so quickly? Just start Jackson Dart. Like, what are you trying to get here? What was your end game with Russell Wilson? Was he going to win you a Super Bowl? Like, come on. It feels like, Sam, Brian Daboll and Joe Shane are like, we're going to lose our jobs. We need to put Jackson Dart in to give us some hope. It's like, yeah, like the Jedi's needed Luke Skywalker to save the day and be the new hope. That's what Jackson Dart is like, coming to save our jobs. It's a terrible place to start. Terrible. Like Jackson Dart, in my opinion, is nowhere near ready. And he's coming up against one of the best defenses in the league. Obviously, from what I've just my little monologue there, I'm going with the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm joining you. I feel like this could be a clinic for the Chargers defense, and we'll see what we get from Amari and Hampton as well. He looked really good last week after Najee Harris went down. And obviously, he's torn his Achilles now. So yeah, it'll be Amari and Hampton. Getting the bulk of the carries in this game as well. So let's see how that goes. And then the early slate finishes with the Eagles heading to Tampa Bay. This is the main game on Sky this week. The Eagles are 3.5-point favourites going down to Florida. This game is the game of the early window. Do you think the Bucks can hang in there, or is this Philly's to win?
No, I do. I don't think Philadelphia have played that well this season at all. Their offensive line starting to look a little bit shaky, which is fun because it's boring seeing how much they dominate.
Lane Johnson's injured obviously as well, which is the.
Oh, is he injured? I saw he came out of the game, but is he out?
Yeah, so he it doesn't like it's not gonna be like major, but like he injured himself doing the tush push as well, which is quite funny.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay are such an exciting offense. It's a shame that Mike Evans will be out for this one. And obviously, the whole world's excited about Emeka Egbuka right now, and rightly so. He's looked fantastic. I think Tampa Bay will hang in with everyone this season because of their offense. And like I say, Philadelphia, very reliant on their defense right now with holes, right? Their cornerbacks don't look great this year. Their safeties don't look great this year. I think you can get after Philadelphia here, and I do think Tampa. I'm going to take Tampa spread here. So am I.
I think the Eagles were lucky to win last week, if we're being honest. The Rams were a better team throughout that game. They were lucky to win this game, that game last week. And the Bucks, they may get Chris Godwin back as well. That's another thing. Mike Evans is injured, but they may get Chris Godwin back. Emeka Egbuka's playing all right. And Baker's obviously got the chemistry he had in college with Sterling Shepard as well. He's had a really good start to the season. So I don't really think Evans will be too big of a miss. So I'm going to go for Tampa Bay here as well. Okay, on to the late window now. This game, the first game, is the Niners hosting the Jags. Again, it sounds like it might be Brock Purdy about this week, but if Matt Jones does play for the Niners, I don't think it'll make too much difference going up against the Jags. The Niners are 4.5-point favourites, and this game is on Sky Sports Plus if you wanted to watch it. It's also available on DAZN, as are all the other games, other than the two main ones. 4.5 points for the Niners. The Jags look decent, but the Niners look pretty good through 3 weeks. But Nick Bosa not going to be there for the season.
Yes, huge loss for San Francisco. Nick Bosa is playing at an elite level. Massive loss. They're now going to need to put the rookie Micah Williams back out on the edge, along with like Bryce Huff, who has been good, but is a DPR, a designated pass rusher. So he's going to have to step up hugely. It can't be that could be the difference between 13 wins and 8 for San Francisco. It really could. So they get a Mac Jones revenge game potentially, Sam, here. I'm going to take San Francisco. Jacksonville's offense is so they've just stopped running what they had last year. I mean, obviously new coaching staff, right? But Brian Thomas Jr. just does not look the same player so far. Travis Hunter, they've had plays out of him, but hasn't shown to be the player worth drafting as high as they had. They've looked good. They've looked feisty, Jacksonville. It feels like they've got another level to hit. But as we've seen from Jacksonville, though, they could just not hit it and be bad this year at any point. I'm going to take San Francisco here because whoever starts the quarterback, I just think they're a better team. So
am I. For me, the Jags offensive line has actually played pretty well, and the fact that Trevor Lawrence is still turning over the ball so much is a real concern to me, to be honest with you. I think they needed to get this offensive line better to see what they had, because obviously he's been sacked so much in his career, but yeah, really, any sign of pressure and Lawrence throws an interception at this rate. So that is a real concern. So I'm going to go for the Niners, even though they don't have Nick Bosa. Okay, we'll stay in the NFC West. The Rams host the Colts. This is a fun one, obviously. The Rams at 2-1, the Colts at 3-0. The Rams are 3.5-point favourites. at SoFi. Again, this one, it might not have been looking fun before the season, but this game now is looking really good, isn't it?
Danny Dimes, Sam. Who'd have thought? Like, the way he's playing is like, wow. Like, fair play. I did not think he had it in him. Well, he's shown glimpses of it, right? It's just the way he's played so far in Indianapolis. I mean, helped out by a really good offensive line, good running game. He looks so impressive, and it's fun to see. It's fun to see these like revivals at quarterback, like Sam Darnold, like Geno Smith, Carson Wentz potentially this year, right? Indianapolis do look feisty, but unfortunately, as a Seattle fan, I think the Rams are the best team in the NFC. They have weaknesses. They just lost their number one cornerback, Mikaela Witherspoon, after the season, which is big. That's big. They gave away Darren Kendrick to Seattle, who's had 2 picks and should have had 9 so far. They have weaknesses, but I do think the Rams are the best team in the NFC, so I'll take Los Angeles.
Yeah, so am I. That defensive line is probably one of the only defensive lines that I feel like can disrupt Danny Dimes with what he's got in front of him, because that Colts offensive line has been so good. And there was like 3 starters this year, and they've been so good. It's crazy how good it's been.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. But this Rams defensive line is one of the best in the NFL. Jared
Verse is he's so. I don't like it as a Seahawks fan, but he is fantastic. He is he's generational. He really is.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go for the Rams -3.5 here. All right, the big game, the Chiefs hosting the Ravens. The Ravens are 2.5-point favorites going in to Arrowhead, which I think says it all for the Chiefs this year. This game is on Sky Sports NFL. It's also on 5 Action as well, so it's available on free-to-air telly in the UK. Yeah, both teams 1 and 2 heading into this season. The Ravens have looked better than the Chiefs, but in the win column they are the same. The Ravens are favourites in Arrowhead. That's crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy, yeah. I mean, maybe I don't know, Sam. How do you feel about this? And maybe guys listening, comment below. Like, is it just me, or are Kansas City just so boring to watch?
Yes,
like, it's like such a slog watching their offense. It's like make everything look so hard, and it's like, I'm getting tired just watching it. It's like it's just not fun at all. It's like Patrick Mahomes is having to work wonders, and Travis Kelce can't run a route anymore, and they've got Tyquan Thornton running 9 routes every 2 plays. It just looks so hard for him to move the ball. Yeah, I'm taking Baltimore here. I think Baltimore's defense has real issues, which is wild because they have a great personnel. I think their defensive coordinator might be on the hot seat because he's not done a very good job replacing Mike McDonald. Their defense is leaky, so Kansas City could get after them. If Worthy comes back, I'm not sure if he's ready yet. I'm going to take Baltimore here and feel pretty confident about that.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Baltimore as well. Which again, I feel crazy picking against the Chiefs at home because of how that's been such a good safety net for them over the last almost 7-8 years now. Really, when you think about it. But yeah, no, Baltimore. Lamar Jackson's playing lights out. He's been playing lights out for 3 years now. He's been playing so well. Again, they said it. They said on Monday Night Football he has the highest passer rating of all time, which just shows how good he's been right now. That he is statistically the best thrower of the football all time, and this is a guy who people didn't want throwing the football.
Running back apparently. Yeah,
just crazy. No. So I feel sorry for. I think the Chiefs just need a spark. They just need some firepower. Their run game's terrible. They need a receiver. They're going to be very, very active. Going towards the trade deadline. I think as long as they're in and around 500 before the trade deadline or before their bye week, I think they're going to be fine. But right now they're not looking great. So I'm going to pick them to go to 1-3. I'm going to go for the Baltimore Ravens to go back to 500. And again, I think this team is one of the best in the league. They've just had a very, very, very hard schedule through 3-4 weeks, and they've got lots of home games coming up after this one as well. So yeah, give me the Ravens. I'm still very, very high on them. And then the final game of the 9 p.m. slate. This one is only on DAZN with a 3 on Sky. The Raiders host the Bears. This one's a really interesting one. The Bears are favourites after a brilliant offensive performance last week, and then a pretty decent one against the Lions as well. We're starting to really see the Ben Johnsonification of this Bears offense now. Keller Williams has looked really good as well this season as well. but their defense still sucks. So this should be quite an interesting one there. It's also a Dennis Allen revenge game. He was head coach of the Raiders. So his defense needs something. Obviously, he's got 2 revenge games. He's got the Saints in there as well. But the Bears are favourites, and based on what the Raiders have shown the last 2 weeks, they're probably rightly favourites, aren't they, Chicago?
I think they are, yeah, because the Raiders' defense looks terrible. It looks really bad, and Geno Smith has looked good, but the interceptions have really, really hampered them. Chicago, Caleb Williams, that was a really nice performance. That flea flicker where DeAndre Swift did him absolutely no favors at all, just lofted the ball in the air. Caleb Williams just calm, waits for it to come down, catches it, and then throws one of the best throws you'll ever see. It was so nice. That was a much needed performance from Caleb Williams. And they'll hope that, with Ben Johnson now, they start to ascend, they start to see consistency from number 18. If he performs anywhere close to that this Sunday, I think they beat the Raiders comfortably. I'll take Chicago here.
Yeah, same here. I think I just think they're quite similar built teams, and I think the Bears are just better at it than the Raiders are. If I'm being honest, I feel like the Raiders' offensive line beside Colton Miller is terrible. Colton Miller is playing very well and making their offense on average look average because of Colton Miller. If he wasn't there, this Raiders offense would be horrendous. It really would. And Geno Smith, again, he's playing well, but again, they can't run the football, and then he's playing to Dante Thornton and Trey Tucker. Yeah, I feel really sorry for Geno Smith because it's not really his fault. Okay, Sunday Night Football, the big one, Micah Parsons revenge game as the Packers go to Dallas. The Packers are 7.5 point favourites going to one of the hardest places to play in the NFL. And that probably says it all about Dallas Cowboys, doesn't it? It
does, yeah. It's a shame. It's a shame that Dallas just aren't very good again. It's I don't like the Dallas Cowboys, right? But the NFL is objectively more fun when Dallas are good. It's just, there's Cowboys storylines, other Cowboys fans and haters come out. It's just fun seeing them compete. And when it's just miserable being a Dallas Cowboys fan right now. I mean, got Dak Prescott on that awful contract and losing Micah Parsons to the team who you're going to play this weekend. Yeah, I can see Green Bay dominating this game. I think it'll be a bounce back for Jordan Love and the offense. I think Green Bay really need a wide receiver, and they could be a buying team in the coming weeks. Maybe Tyreek Hill, someone like that, becomes available. But yeah, I'm taking Green Bay here, so I'm going to feel pretty confident about that.
Yeah, if Dallas had CeeDee Lamb in this game, I'd maybe consider them to come within that 7 points. But no CeeDee Lamb, I think it's going to be a lot harder. And you can see as soon as CD went out on Sunday, Dak's head just completely went. Yeah. And he played so well for the first 2 weeks, and there was no CD in there. His head went and he threw the 2 interceptions that ultimately cost him the game. So yeah, I'm going to go for Green Bay here too. That CD Lamb injury is just going to be so big for Dallas, I think. And he'll be back in the next couple of weeks. I think it's 3 to 4 weeks. But it's going to be a tough couple of weeks for them. And then there's 2 Monday Night Football games this week, both on DAZN, both on Sky Sports. The first one is at midnight on Monday. The Dolphins host the Jets. This is going between 2, 0, and 3 teams. This is a great game for prime time. The Dolphins are 2.5 point favourites. Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer are still in Miami because of the way they played against Buffalo, but there were reports that could change if they do lose to the Jets in this game. Where do you see this one going?
Justin Fields is playing this game, is he, do we think?
I don't know. It was concussion, isn't it? So it really depends. Sounds like it might be Tyler Taylor right now, and also they don't practice till tomorrow anyway, so we won't really know. But either way, I don't think it makes much difference. But Fields does have the rushing element, doesn't he, over Tyler Taylor?
Yes, yeah. I'm going to go with the Jets just because of their defense, which has played it's playing well. And they can run the ball, right? They do get a lot of these big splash plays from Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. I'm going to go New York here. I don't feel good about it at all. Miami have the capability of beating anyone, really, but they have the players to do it, the skilled players to do it. It just feels a bit all over the place in Miami at the minute. It feels like something's falling apart a little bit. and they could be a selling team here, especially if they let go of the head coach and then maybe trade, Tyreek Hill and some of the guys, the better players on the team. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, Bradley Chubb's a guy to watch, especially with the Niners. Yeah, but he's got 3 sacks already this year. So yeah, he is.
Do you think Jalen Phillips is on his last year of his contract? Do you think he's a player they could trade?
Yeah, could do, but he's not the same guy from the injury. That's the other thing as well. He's missed. I think he missed Achilles and ACL, or Achilles and knee. So these are 2 knee injuries 2 years in a row. So that's the only thing there. I don't know if whether teams want to take on that or not. But yeah, no, I'm going to go for Miami. I just feel like that. Yeah, I think these 2 teams are terrible. But what the Dolphins showed on that Thursday night game is that they're playing for this coaching staff. The Dolphins players like Mike McDaniel. They want him to stay. It's just they're not tough enough, and that's the real thing. That's what the thing is. They're just when they're dealt with a bit of adversity, the Dolphins crumble every single time. But they want this to go well, so I think they will play well this game. But I think everyone there is really on borrowed time, so I'm not very confident.
I think McDaniel is kind of like the Robert Saleh of offense. He's an elite coordinator and just not a head coach, and that's okay. It's just it feels like it's going one way, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting because everyone likes him, but it just doesn't feel like don't feel like he's a leader of of men and they're going to get you going on the football field. I thought that's the thing really. Fascinating one to watch this game. And then the other game, the Broncos really in need of a win. Well, they play the Bengals and Jake Browning. The Broncos are 7.5-point favorites. This one starts an hour after the other one. This one is the one that Joe Buck and Troy Aikman will be calling. The other one will be Chris Fowler and Dan Orlovsky and Lewis Riddick. So this is the main one. The Broncos hosting the Bengals. Broncos by 7.5 points, despite Bo Nix not looking great through 3 weeks. This is an interesting one, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Bo Nix starting to look like the player who I thought he would be in his rookie season. A lot of weird mistakes. Not the player that we saw in his rookie year. Their offense looks janky. It looks like they're dependent on certain players. I'm still going to take Denver here because Jake Browning just isn't it. It's just not very good. I can't believe they haven't made a trade for someone yet. Just go get Jameis Winston. Let's go get Drew Lock.
Jameis Winston is so good in this offense as well.
Yeah,
Jameis Winston thrown to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
At least it would be fun. At least it would they'd make plays. Jameis Winston might throw 16 picks in 4 games, but he'll score touchdowns. He'll move the ball. Jake Browning is just he's not every week they're playing him. Sam is a wasted week for Cincinnati. He may prove me wrong this week, but against the best defense in the league, I cannot see it. I'm going to take Denver here.
Yeah, I think we might be on for a repeat of what we saw against another great defense in Minnesota last week, where Browning just didn't look great at all. And I think we're going to be in for the same thing again. And this is a huge game with everyone watching Sean Payton and Bo Nix now. Again, he's statistically the worst quarterback in the league that has played every game this year.
Wow.
So yes, again, he's PFF's lowest graded quarterback. He's also near the bottom of EPA and a lot of things as well. So yes, this is a big game for Bo Nix. I like him. I think but I just feel like we're starting to see the flaws that obviously we've been saying. He's got a very high floor, but he's got a very low ceiling, and we're starting to see that he can't really go above that ceiling right now. Really, I think that's what we're starting to see with Bo Nix, and what we got in his rookie year is probably just what he's going to be the rest of his career. To be honest with you, I think that's what we're going to see. But again, I think that can win you games. I think that can win you a playoff game, but you need everything great around him. And again, they have had it, but I think they've just been unlucky, really. To be honest with you, we'll see what happens. But yeah, huge game for Denver there. Okay, we'll finish the podcast with DFS Stars, our weekly daily fantasy segment brought to you by our partners for the podcast this season, Fantasy Gameday, which is the UK's dedicated daily fantasy app. My picks that I gave last week were up and down again. It was a bad week from me. Going from the start, really, CeeDee Lamb as a captain was probably the biggest bust of the week I could have had, if I'm being honest. Getting into just a few snaps into the Cowboys game with the Bears and therefore scoring 0 points. This was a really, really unfortunate one for me, obviously, because before the injury, that game was shaping up to be a shootout. had everything. The Bears scored early. The Cowboys looked like they could score straight away, and I thought this one was going for a shootout. But it was that City Lamb pick was probably the worst one I could have made as captain. But you can see what we're trying to do there, and I think on another day it would have been better. And then after CD went out, the Cowboys' offense was just terrible, and they struggled without him, and that made my quarterback pick, Dak Prescott, very bad. He threw 2 interceptions as well. Like, it wasn't terrible, but he did end the week as QB17, so I think there was better value out there than what the portion of the budget that he took out there. But again, if CD was there, I think it could have been a very, very different story there. My running back pick was Travis Etienne, who did find the end zone, but he had his worst week of the season too, scoring just 11.6 points. That wasn't good, but again, he was all right. But again, probably was better value elsewhere. But it wasn't all bad because Rome Odunze was a good pick. As a receiver that I identified, he found the end zone. He scored 15.2 points, and he is getting a high volume of targets from Caleb Williams as well that I thought he would get. But he could only put in 3 of those passes last week. So on a different day, that could have been a very, very good pick. He could have got over 20 points at least. But again, that was a good pick for me, Rome Odunze, in the end. And then finally, for the value that Juwan Johnson gave, again, I think that was a good pick. So again, probably two hits, 3 misses, you could say. He ended the week as tight end 9, scored 11.1 points, carrying on from his impressive form for the first 2 weeks of the season. He's averaging 9.3 targets a game at the moment, so I do think this is a really good pick for the rest of the season. I don't think this will be the last time that I will pick Juwan Johnson as my tight end for the week, unless he does go up really, really expensive on the app. But even now, after another big game, he's not too pricey at all. This week I've gone for a similar strategy, but I've not gone for the QB pass catcher stack, which I have done the first 3 weeks. I've gone away from that now because I think I do need to change something with the picks that I identify for you. But before I give you my picks for week 4, I just want to remind you that you can still get a free entry if you sign up to Fantasy Gameday with the code FULL10, and the users can get a free game credit added to their account at £7.50 bet when they enter the first lineup on the app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Right, here we are. Here are 5 players that you need to have in your daily fantasy lineup on Fantasy Gameday this Sunday. As always, I'll start with my captain, which is the player in your lineup that gets double points. And for me, there's only one person who this could be this week. I'm going for B. John Robinson, going up against the Commanders' defense. Now, Washington have improved this defense. It has looked better than it did last year, and they've got better against the run as well. But Robinson's ability in the pass game just makes him worth a punt at double points for 8,600. I think he's got a better matchup than the other 2 expensive running backs, Jonathan Taylor and Jameer Gibbs. And again, he's just a fantasy weapon. He's a 2-way player. He can get 50 yards receiving, 50 yards rushing most games. And he's had at least 100 scrimmage yards in every game this year. He's averaging 6 targets a game from Michael Penix as well. And obviously he's by far the main back as well on that team. So yeah, I think Beecham Robinson's in for a good day. He hasn't found the end zone since week 1, so again, I think he is due to find the end zone soon. And coming into week 4, he's running about 5 this year, just by only scoring 1 touchdown. Just shows how good he has been for the last couple of years, but again, especially the last year or 2. So Beecham Robinson for me is going to have a big day. I'm going expensive on the quarterback pick. I'm going for Josh Allen, going up against the Saints defense. Yes, he is the joint most expensive quarterback of the week with Lamar Jackson, but he's going up against a defense that's given up the 5th most fantasy points per game for quarterbacks, and that are playing outside of prime time this week. So the 5 of the teams that are playing that you can pick for this Sunday Stars competition on Fantasy Gameday this week, I think Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks you can go for, despite his cost of 9,200. He is a TD machine, and only the Bears have given up more passing touchdowns than the Saints defense this year. And his rushing ability, again, on top of that, makes him, I think, worth a big chunk of your budget this week. Okay, at running back, I'm going for Marion Hampton of the Chargers, going up against the Giants defense. With the news that Najee Harris will miss the rest of the season with an Achilles injury, Hampton should see a lot more of the ball this week, as he did at the end of the game against Denver last week. And I love this matchup against the Giants defense. Only the Ravens, Bengals, and Titans have allowed more fantasy points to running backs than the Giants this year, who've allowed the 5th most rushing yards and the 3rd most rushing touchdowns shared with another team as well. And Hampton had a breakout game last week against Denver. He ended up as running back 4 across the whole week, with 129 scrimmage yards and 26 touches. And at 5,800, I think he is really, really great value. Okay, with a big part of your budget taken up by Beecham Robinson and Josh Allen, you're going to need a few budget options this week and in your lineup. But that is okay because there are plenty around, especially at receiver. My receiver pick for the week is Tyquan Thornton of the Chiefs, who's available for just 2,600, despite catching touchdowns in the past 2 games. Thornton had the second most targets out of all Chiefs receiving options this season, and he is Mahomes' go-to deep threat as well, with an average depth of target of 25.2 yards. So if the Chiefs are training at any point, look for them to go towards Tyquan Thornton. I really like the look of him going against the Ravens defense that is 31st in the league at defending the pass. And then finally, my tight end pick for the week is Hunter Henry, who is going up against the Panthers, who have given up the most yards in the league to tight ends this season. I think he is a home run pick on Sunday, as he is tight end 3 in fantasy already, and he's going up against the Panthers defense, and he is Drake May's number 1 target as well, receiving 5 more looks than any other player this season, the second best option being Stephon Diggs. He has tremendous value at just 3,400. He is the 7th most expensive tight end, despite leading all tight ends in points last week. I think is a great pick for you this week, Hunter Henry. And that wraps up my 5 picks for this week's Daily Fantasy Slate on Fantasy Game Day. My 5 DFS stars for the week are Bijan Robinson, Josh Allen, Amarian Hampton, Tyquan Thornton, and Hunter Henry. Best of luck if you're playing along, and don't forget, new users can get a free £7.50 bet if they sign up with the code FULL10. That's FULL10. You get your free £7.50 game entry once you enter a lineup on the app. Just a reminder, please gamble responsibly, and only if you're 18 or over and based in the UK and Northern Ireland. Okay, that is going to do it for the podcast this week. A huge thank you for coming on, Charlie. It's been great to have you on again. Can you let everyone else know where they can find your work?
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it. Yeah, loved it, mate. Charlie Reach PLC at Daily Mirror US. That's my Twitter handle. Stories throughout the season, NFL. It's been a great 3 weeks. Looking forward to a great rest of the season.
Yeah, it's going to be brilliant. That's all for today. I will see you next week, similar time, probably Tuesday or Wednesday, looking ahead to the first London game of the season between the Minnesota Vikings and Cleveland Browns. But for now, I've been Sam Moores. It's been Full 10 Yards NFL Podcast, and I'll see you next time.